This place has known plunder, massacre, and destruction. The Jews, when building this nation, or even in the diaspora, have always been weaker than many mighty, hateful enemies. So it was when the Babylonians came here to Jerusalem to conquer the land of Israel. They destroyed the Jewish temple that I believe you visited on Mount Moriah. And the Jews they didn't slaughter were carried off to distant Babylon, today's Iraq, as slaves. And as they lay weeping by the waters of Babylon, they remembered Zion. The rabbis there wrote holy books, commanding the Jewish people to do God's work, never to forget the land that God promised them, always to pray for the return to Zion, to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, and to maintain the covenant. And so they returned. For aren't conquerors at the end always conquered? And wasn't our father Abraham born in the Babylonian city of Ur? Abraham, who God ordered to leave his father's house and head to a place that God promised to his chosen people. And weren't we again condemned to slavery, this time in Egypt? And weren't we liberated from there by great wonders and signs delivered by a man appointed by God who talked with a lisp, with very few words, but an enormous amount of courage, who uttered God's orders to the mighty Pharaoh, "Let my people go." And weren't we led by a pillar of fire and by miracles to the promised land? And didn't God give us the 10 Commandments? And didn't Moses and the priests give us and the world the greatest texts and laws for man to live moral and just lives? Laws that covered every fact of daily life, from what to eat to what not to eat, our hygiene, our behavior to our fellow man. And didn't we learn that it is more important what we give to the world than what we take from the world? And hasn't the Jewish contribution to mankind far exceeded what we Jews have taken from the world? When Jesus was preaching here in Jerusalem, the Holy Land was under occupation, Roman occupation. The people were oppressed, and shortly after Jesus' death, the Romans, Titus, and later Hadrian, laid waste to the land of Israel, to Jerusalem, again destroyed the Jewish temple. Hadrian laid siege to Masada, where I believe you're going to visit tomorrow. He was captured by the zealots, but all perished. All determined to sacrifice themselves rather than to be dragged in slavery again, this time to Rome. And out of the bloodied sand by the Dead Sea came the cry, "Masada shall not fall again." These days, elite Israeli soldiers do not take the cable car up to Masada like you will probably do together. They march up the Snake Pass. With their hand on a rifle and another hand on the Bible, they take the oath, "Masada shall not fall again." The name Israel at that time, the Roman times, was replaced by the title Syria Palestina by an anti-Semitic Roman as an insult to the Jews. The temple, built to worship God, turned into rubble, save for the Western Wall, which I believe you visited yesterday. Jews fled. Most were dragged, as I say, in chains to Rome, but many found refuge up in the Galilee, by the Sea of Galilee, Tiberias, Tzfat, and the hills of Judea. There has always been a continuous Jewish presence here, despite many invading forces that persecuted them, including the Crusaders, Egyptians, Greeks, and the Muslims, to name but a few. Places like Tzfat and Tiberias became the centers for Jewish learning and spiritualism. And through the ages, the persecution of Jews became global. There was always an excuse to hate the Jews. Down the centuries, it was anchored in religion. We learn our history of European anti-Semitism that left millions dead. The Spanish Inquisition was more global in its reach than the Nazi Holocaust. The Spanish Inquisition lasted for in excess of 200 years. It began with expulsion, but then it spread rapidly to convert or die. The stain of Jewish hatred was not confined to Spain and Portugal. 150 Jews were burned to death in a tower in a place called York in England in 1190. Nor were the Jews safe from Islamic persecution. We learned the Arab expression taqiyya from the time of Muhammad, when he signed a peace treaty, when he enacted war against the Jews of Medina and lost. He signed a peace treaty, pledging that he would live in peace alongside the Jews of Medina. He did that long enough until he was able to recruit an army strong enough to defeat the Jews of Medina. And in a terrible act, he beheaded 800 Jews in the square of Medina, showing us Islamic intent for the future. The Arab word taqina means broken promises, promises made with a desire and an exclamation to go back on your promise when the time is more convenient. Taqiyya didn't die with Muhammad. We've seen it in our days. When Israel reluctantly bowed to international pressure and allowed Yasser Arafat and his henchmen to come and live in the area from Tunis by virtue of the Oslo Accords, he signed an agreement promising to make peace with Israel. While he was talking to the BBC about peace of the grave, he was giving us peace of the brave. He was giving us peace of the grave. I know this because, as Jerry said, I became the founder of the Netanya Terror Victims Organization when we experienced the hand of the peaceful hand of Yasser Arafat and Palestinian terrorists. But the holy Islamic tactic of taqiyya is being used today. Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president, tells the world about his victimhood, how much he wants peace, but incites his people that Israel is Palestine in anti-Semitic messages. The Jews know full hand the devious designs of our enemies about trust. America has Thanksgiving. And you know why you call it Thanksgiving? Because you arrived on the Mayflower, also escaping European persecution, to America, and you found forests and rivers, lakes and green valleys. You have a lot to celebrate. When our early pioneers returned here to the Holy Land, they found malarial swamps in the north and dry arid deserts in the south. No natural resources. Due to European and Arab anti-Semitism, Jews began drifting back to the Holy Land. But the movement arose that connected the needs of persecuted Jews to the spirit of the Bible and the commandment to return to Zion. It became known as Zionism. Incidents kept pricking at the Jewish conscience, as if they were mystical promptings by God himself. The time was approaching of mass Jewish immigration. It became known as Aliyah. Aliyah means to rise up and claim the land. With persecution inflicted on us in the name of Islam, in the name of Christianity, in the name of fascism, in the name of communism, we Jews never renounced our claim to Israel. For thousands of years, wherever we found ourselves in exile, in the diaspora, we cried out, "Next year in Jerusalem." Whenever a Jewish bridegroom gets married, I don't know if you know this, there is a ceremony where he stamps on and breaks a glass underfoot. Why does he do that? It's in commemoration, even at perhaps the joyous moment of a bridegroom's life, he remembers the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. we strengthened ourselves under pain of death in our faith and a promise that we will be blessed by the return of our people to Zion, to this place, to Israel, to our land, to our heritage, with Jerusalem as its spiritual capital.